Hey guys, Alex here with the MegaCell Charger project. It's been a while since I released a video about this project, but we've been working hard on getting some great features ready and getting the devices tested so they work properly. A major change since we introduced a new team member. He's also a partner on this project. His name is Martin, and he is in charge of the programming side of this project now. He did a great job so far, creating a brand new software, a client software for the charger, and also improved a lot the efficiency on the firmware and added new features on the device as well. So let me show you some of the changes that have been done, some of the improvements and the new features which have been implemented in this project. Alright, so first thing first, we got a cool intro for this project, and I will start with installing the MegaCellMonitor, the new software that Martin worked on. You can get it from MegaCellMonitor.com and click on the download MCM. Just run anyway, accept, and it should start installing the dependencies on of this software. It uses .NET, and you must make sure that your Windows is updated. On some older Windows versions, you might get an issue if you don't have .NET 4.7.2 installed. Make sure you make the updates and install all the new frameworks that are needed for this software to run. It's trying to install them automatically, but on the testing we did on an older machine, it was not able to install them because it was needing other prerequisites to get it done. Okay, another thing that has been introduced by Martin is the licensing for this software to run. At the moment, everyone gets a license with their charger, and we're trying to keep it this way so you won't pay additional money for the software to run it. We implemented this as a feature in case we might have some enterprise features that are needed running multiple chargers from this interface, which requires setting up databases and maybe new features. We don't know what's in front of us, but we try to get it as well to know how many software are there, and also to prevent people maybe using it with some counterfeited chargers and stuff like this. So you're going to need to request a license to run this software. You saw it shows you the machine ID. You email that ID to the email address, which is licensing@megacellmonitor.com. You can see it in the message there. So if you want to get started right away, there's also an option to download a trial license. So you can get started until you receive the permanent licensing. You go to the this address, dpw4u.com/site assets, and you get the trial license. That's going to work for 1 month from the moment you install it, and after that it will tell you to get a new license, that the licensing expired, and you can get a new trial one, but it will make your life easier if you're going to request a permanent licensing if you bought the charger from us. Alright, so you get the license and you place it in the C, Connect and Exchange. When you first launch the application, is checking if there's a new version of the MegaCellMonitor. If there is a new version, it will attempt to download it and install it if you choose to accept it. And yeah, this is how the interface looks like. See a new interface for those which never seen this before. Are going to see much more information, and things change dramatically from the interface that I have created in the first place. So let me go over the buttons and all the things that you must do to get this connected to your charger. So after you launch the software, you click on the settings button on the left side. It will ask you if you want to make changes to the configuration. You choose yes and move forward. At this point, there's no automatically scanning feature implemented in the software, so you must add the IP address of the charger manually in there. All right. Once you add it, you click on it and you can read the default configuration file from the charger, and that should tell you that the connection was done successfully. And you click the done button and it should start pulling the information from the charger about the cells and all that. In order to get the software working properly with the MegaCell Charger, you must make sure that you have the latest firmware available for the charger. Like I said before, since Martin got into the team, he improved both the software and the firmware on the device. We showed before a video on how to update the firmware, but I'm going to include this again to make sure you have all the information in one place, and that you're going to do this as fast as possible and with less pain than looking for information all over the place. So you get the Node MCU downloaded, and on the MegaCellMonitor.com you can also find the bin file, .bin file, that's the firmware for the MegaCell Charger. You launch Node MCU and then you select the firmware. You basically leave the default information and make sure that on the erase flash option you leave it to no. Otherwise you get the device bricked and you'll have to send it to us to fix it for you. Alright, so once you make sure that you have the right settings, you click on the Flash Node MCU and it will begin writing the firmware. After you have the firmware written, you can reset the device and it will move to the next step, which is setting up the device for Wi-Fi. Before I showed you how that works, but I want to go over it again to make sure that you have the right information. Alright, so back to the charger now. You can see it already booted, and that's because this one is already connected to the Wi-Fi. But one thing that Martin also fixed is the ability to reset the device to factory defaults. In case you move the device to a new location or you want to set it to a different router, you hold this button, this function button, until you reach the set factory defaults, factory reset. So default information has been applied, Wi-Fi is being reset, and it's restarting the device. You get some information that it's starting the device. We have two options to connect the device to your router, and that's through VPS. That's a button on your router which allows you to fastly connect any device to your router without adding the credentials and setting up the SSID and stuff like this. But for those which don't have this option on their router or doesn't work for some reason, you still have the manual way to set it. So I will show you how that works. When it's booting, you'll see the message that is looking for VPS, and if it's not connecting to a router, it's going in an access point mode. In that mode, you have 1 minute to set it from your phone or. Alright, so it's in access point mode. I'm going to get to my phone right now. Let me focus on it. And you see, for me, it connected automatically. But let me forget it for a second. Type in the password. Alright, so it connected. You should see a management address in a second. Like this, like manage router. So you see, this is the IP address 192.168.4.2 of the device at this point. But to manage it and set up your Wi-Fi password, you go here and click on configure Wi-Fi. From this, let me try to focus. That's better. If you don't see your SSID, try refreshing. And you pick the SSID, add the password, save the information, and the device will reset. I'm not going to input my password right now. I'm going to actually show you how to use the VPS function as well. So it's still in setup mode, and if I'm going to reset it, is going to go into VPS. To do this, let me. Okay. On my router right here, I have the button. You cannot see it, but it says VPS. I will press it for a few seconds, and the power button begin blinking like this. At this point, I can go and reset the device. It's starting the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi connected. It's trying to connect through VPS. And it connected. So this is how easy it is to actually connect it if you have a fairly modern router. If you don't have one and you plan on using this charger or multiple chargers like this, I would recommend spending a few bucks and getting a proper router for this. I'm not sure if you could see the IP address, but it showed that it got an IP address, and everything works fine now. And I can go back to the interface and show you a few things, features, and how you can actually print the labels after the measurements of the capacity are done. Okay, so in order to print labels from the MegaCellMonitor software, you're going to need a Dyno 450 label printer. And we found that this is pretty cheap. I actually bought one for $60 or $70 used, and it works perfectly. I don't have any issues with it. I just got one to test this feature. Martin had one already, so to get this printer working with the MegaCellMonitor, first you must have the drivers installed. Because there are multiple software versions, you must make sure you have the compatible version, which is 8.7.3 at this point. If that's going to change, if there are major improvement in drivers and stuff like this, we're going to update the software, but for now you must make sure you have this version. I'm not sure if it's going to be forward compatible, but I tried older versions and the MegaCellMonitor software was not recognizing the printer. So you have this download link. You can also type on Google Dino 450 8.7.3 software for Windows, or access that link in the video directly. Download and install the driver. In case there are any issues installing the software, make sure you do a test print from within the Dino label printing software to see if your Windows machine recognizes the printer properly, and then go inside the MegaCellMonitor to see if it's working or not. Okay, after the driver got installed, you should restart the computer, plug in the printer, power it on, and you should be good to go with that. So let's go on testing right now to see if it's recognizing it. And if you go to the settings and go into new cell insert actions, you should see printer settings in there, and it should tell you the name of the printer, and the first label are the small labels that we used. They are 25 millimeters by 8 or something like that. I'm not totally sure. That should be the case. But anyways, you can find them by typing that code on Google that you see there. So at this point, the printer is printing the informations, the capacity informations, the cell ID and the charger ID on those labels. And you also have a QR code which can be scanned. Martin was playing with some handgun scanner to retrieve information about those cells from the database, which is pretty cool. You could get already tested cells after 6 months or more, to test them again, see their capacity and compare it with all the results by scanning that label, and that will tell you how fast those cells will deteriorate and what's their new capacity. You can update the capacity and stuff like this. So it will be a pretty cool feature, we imagine, after we get the Android app done to recognize these QR labels. You could scan a cell and you get those information displayed automatically on the phone. So that's a nice feature. So after you printed the labels, you remove them from the printer and you can begin adding them on the cells. These QR codes can be also used to sort the cells automatically. We've been thinking before to make some sort of machine which will sort those cells. For example, you get the information from a software like repacker.com or something like that, and then you place a bunch of cells on the sorting machine and it will give you the required cells and do that labor for you automatically. That will be pretty cool, I think. It's doable, it's not too complicated, like I don't know, software wise and stuff like this, but it will require some time, and if people are interested, maybe there are others who experience with this type of things before, get in touch with us. We like making great things and improve the, it will also improve the benefits of using this charger. So that will be an idea for enthusiasts out there. Alright, so my colleague Mihai and Liviu worked on testing the device, printing the labels and showing the instructions so far. And I also want to go a bit more in depth with the software interface to tell you what's changed, what settings you have in there, what works and what not. And yeah, I will go on the left. You saw that this button right here will go to the settings window, and on the first tab you have the SQL and chargers. Right here you'll add all the chargers that you have available, and you can also remove them, and the scan option is not implemented yet. You have the message popping saying that we're working on it, because it's quite useful if you have multiple chargers and you want to add them all at once without going to each of them to discover what IP address has and all that. By the way, you can get the IP address from the charger by holding the function button, and you'll get the show IP address, and you also can go to your router and see the leases of the DHCP addresses that have been given. Alright, so you have the information about the access point, the password if you want to change that. For the discharge cycles, this function works, have been requested to us by Tom Ammerman from Battery Hookup. He wants to test the chargers, he wants to test the cells multiple times to make sure they have the right capacity on the label, because some of the cells might degrade after just 1 or 2 cycles, and he wants to make sure that he has quality cells delivered to the clients, which is pretty cool. And you have the discharge cycles, which will work with measure capacity functionality, which will charge the cell first and begin discharging, and then will go on with the cycles until it reaches the last cycle, and it shows you the last capacity. It won't average the capacity or something like this. It will just show you what's the last number in the capacity right there. For the max temp, you have the threshold. If you've seen any videos from the beginning of the project, I've explained that each cell has its temperature sensor underneath, and we're pulling that information for each cell, and in case that temperature is larger than the threshold you set, it will stop that cell and mark it as heater, or show you that that cell should be removed and don't use it. You have the max charge milliamps, and you can set it from 100 to 1000 milliamps. So the charger can discharge with 1 amp for each cell, and you should make sure that you have the fans working properly to make sure the circuit board is not warping or burn any of the resistors on the back. So proper airflow is needed when you discharge with more than 500 milliamps per cell. You have the max voltage set. Some users in the past were complaining that the charger was showing 4.24 or 25 when it was charging, and that it was not stopping at the threshold that was set of 4.2. That's due to the fact that when you push electricity in the cells, you must have a larger voltage than the one that you try to set the cells to. When the charging is stopping, the cell will rest to 4.2 volts, so don't worry about the fact that you will see another decimal in there. When it's set to 4.2, we're actually letting the chips, the charging chips, to do their job completely. So they will know when the cell is not drawing any more amps, and it will stop the charging process. If you want to have the cell doctor stopping exactly at 4.2, you can set the threshold to 1.19. So that way you will have the software stopping the charging, but we do not guarantee that that cell is fully charged, and you might get less milliamps when you discharge that cell, because it was not fully charged until it was not showing amps anymore. So that's the max voltage. The store voltage was also a feature requested by Tom Ammerman from Battery Hookup. There's a new regulation in the USA where they require the cells to be half charged or something like this, like 30% capacity charge, so it makes it less prone to getting a fire started by the cells and stuff like this. And this is very useful when you do a large volume, to have the capacity showing in there. You've fully charged it, just charge it, but then you leave it to a resting voltage, and that voltage you can change it. Some users prefer it to 3.8, others to 3.6, but you're free to change it to whatever value you want. So for the minimum voltage, that's another setting which is up to you, to what you set it. We usually set it to 2.6 volts because they're sag when you measure the capacity on those. I saw that Opus chargers and Litokala and others have their threshold to 2.8 volts. You can set it to that one as well, but we found that it will still have some capacity left in there, some cells, because of the sags. They are old, and when the discharge stops, they are going to jump to 2.87 and stuff like this. And we found that that's closer to the 2.8 value that we want on the discharge if we set the minimum voltage to 2.6 volts. We could have added this extra value into the firmware, so you actually see 2.8 here, but we wanted to have to give more flexibility to the client. Even if it makes it a bit more complex when you see it. Someone, when he's looking at these values, I don't want to discharge the cells to 2.6, but you should know that that's including the sag when discharging, and then you can make a decision to change that value to whatever you want, and you will know that the charger is acting as you expect without any magic numbers inside the firmware that will make it hard to understand what's going on. So that's with these default values in here. These are the default values that the charger comes with, and you can change it, save them, and you can also use the charger in standalone mode without the MegaCellMonitor software, and it will keep these settings in there when you do the cycles from the button, from the function button in there. So this is pretty helpful to know of. In this area where you have the SQL Server settings, you can choose to have a MySQL server if you have a lot of chargers and and you want to make sure your database can handle the information that it's being given by the MegaCellMonitor. I will advise to have a server set up with MySQL and use those information in there. That's for a more advanced video. I don't want to make this video very complex. So default is set to SQLite. That doesn't require any software setup, but the database will lay on your computer, and you won't be able to have multiple MegaCellMonitor versions on different computers connecting to the same database. It's only one application at a time that can write or read from the database. So that's the limitation with the SQLite. It's fast to get it started with, but it's not very flexible. Okay, on the notification tab, you have the option to set a SMTP server that will send you emails with the notification from the charger. That's pretty cool, especially if you're going out and leave the charger doing stuff. You want to see, okay, it's stopped. I have this many cells. Okay, I have this heater. It will give you an information about the heater cell. If the temperature are over the threshold, it will also send you the information. On the new cell insert action, you can have these things happening. You can start charging when you insert a new cell, stop charging, and start MCAP test automatically, so you don't have to push the button anymore. Hold timer, I have to talk with Martin about that because I'm not too sure what it's doing. And you can also print the label of the old cell when you insert a new cell. That's pretty nice. So you can make yourself an automated machine when recycling these cells, and it should work like a breeze. If there are still hiccups, make sure you comment to this video or get in touch with us. We want to make this workflow as good as possible, because this is wasted time for people to keep pushing button every day and write down the measurements from other chargers in an Excel database, start sorting those. That's annoying. That should be over with. So that's the main reason I started this project, because I'm working on a larger project that's a digital course on building power walls, and when I saw that people are using those chargers and want to do hundreds or thousands of cells with them, I saw that doesn't make any sense. So okay, so other thing, getting back to the MegaCellMonitor, you have the print test label. That's going to print to assure you that the connection with the MegaCellMonitor works properly, so you can do this as well. Alright, so the last tab is the circuit breaker under voltage detection threshold. I also have to talk with Martin about this and update maybe in the comments of these videos, because I don't know what it's doing. So that's about it with the settings, and let's quickly go over the other buttons in there. Another thing for debugging, if you have any issues, is the area at the bottom of the software. If you double click on any message, you'll get a larger information window, which will tell you what's going on, what steps are being run by the MegaCellMonitor, and if there are any errors, you can export this information from here. Mihai already showed you that you have the option to right-click on a cell and choose to print it. And you can also access the charge, discharge. MCAP test will do will do a full charging cycle to make sure the cell is fully charged, then do the discharge cycles that you have set in the settings in there. So again, to make sure you understood this properly, if you do MCAP test, it will do 3 discharge cycles right now. If you set it to 1, it will do just 1 cycle. Alright. You can stop the cell from its process. Alright, so you also have the cell settings, which doesn't seem to work right now from the interface, but if you click right here, it opens this this information. You can choose per cell what's the discharge voltage that you wanted, the store voltage, the charge voltage, and the MCAP cycles. That's useful if you are doing some tests, some sort of test on the cells that you have, and you want to have different values to see what's closer to a certain charger, if to a certain charging device, what's going to give you the best results and stuff like this. So you can split it, half of the cells do this, half of the cells do that. So it's there, you should know of it. Okay, these buttons also are helpful if you want to do certain actions for the cells. If you want to charge two of them and discharge others, you can do this. You click on them and it will do the action that it's been done by that button. So you see it started charging. You can discharge another one. It shows you the amps. And again, the discharge rate, it's being set from the settings, and it's for all the cells at the same time. You don't have control for discharge rate per cell right now. We might have it in future hardware versions, but right now this is all there is available. So this is the discharge rate. If we set it to 1000, and you send the information to discharge again. You see that it's it is discharging now with almost 1000 milliamps. When you set the defaults on the charger, it will apply them and it will reconnect to the charger, from what I see. But that's fine because the actions are inside the charger, so you can close this software, the charger will still go on. There's nothing done by this software to keep count of the milliamps and stuff like this. This software is just a client connecting to the server. So another cool thing that you can do is to open some graphs. And that's done when you click on the voltage. And it's pretty tricky. If you have it selected already, it's not opening. You have to deselect it and then click on this to show you a graph. This graph is getting information from the database, and it will show you the voltage, how it dropped, and then you have the milliamps hour at that stage. For those which want to get more information about those discharge rates and stuff like this, this is pretty useful. One more thing before I wrap up. On the left side right here, you have the ability to select the cells. That will allow you to send the commands when pushing these buttons to those cells. So if you want to start charging, it will send the information to all of those selected cells. If you want to stop charging on some of those cells, for example, you'll see that it stopped charging those cells, and the other ones are still charging. That's about it with the updates, guys. Let me know what do you think about this these new features, about the workflow that we implemented. Make sure you share this video. It helps us a lot to spread the word. We plan on mass producing this device because right now we don't do too much profit on this because we're importing the PCBs from China where they are manufactured and assembled, and then we put the cases which we 3D print. There's a lot of manual labor, writing the firmware on each device, testing it to make sure it works properly, and there's no setup, there's no proper setup like you will do in a mass manufacturing process to keep the costs low. But we did this in order to put the product in the hand of the users, and that worked great for us because we got lots of feature requests from users, feedback, testing, and also we met our programmer and partner Martin, which otherwise would have not happened if we would have tried to sell this for a profit at the beginning of the project, trying to make as much money as possible, selling it double the price the Opus or other chargers would cost, having the same 16 cells capacity. So again, if you can help us spread the word, or if you know people that are in need of this kind of setup, make sure you show them this video and we'll keep you updated. There are a lot of great things that we plan on getting done. Right now we focus on the stability of this system to make sure that it works 99% of the time. We get all the small things that are messing up with the process of measuring loss of cells. But like I said, it's working pretty well. Lots of users are using it, and yeah, so thanks a lot guys for watching these videos, and I wish you all the best. Goodbye.